Hi again then guys, and welcome to another car review, of course, from the world of Project Cars 2. This one is a fan favourite. It always is in any game that it pops up in. Of course, the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. A one-off, not exactly a concept car, not quite a prototype, more like a track-only Lamborghini muscle flex in effect, in a similar way to the Renault Espace F1 and some other really hardcore track-only one-off vehicles. But I actually have a hot take when it comes to the Sesto Elemento, or Sixth Element, as it's named, which of course refers to carbon. My hot take though is not a negative one. And usually that tends to be what people use the term hot take for, I know, but mine is actually a positive one. However, this hot take could be as controversial as a negative one, because my hot take for the Sesto Elemento is that this is the single most impressive car to come out of Lamborghini since Audi took over. And I know that that is a very bold claim. It's not their only track-only vehicle, it's not the most powerful, far from it, and it certainly isn't the fastest, at least not for top speed. So why am I saying that this is the most impressive car? Well, actually there are two reasons. One is to do with Lamborghinis after this car compared to before it, and secondly is down to the pure performance and what this car can do with the spec that it has to work with. Because of course the whole idea behind the Sesto Elemento was to make it super lightweight. Borderline Le Mans prototype territory, in fact. It weighs 2,200 pounds, 999 kilos, just 1 kilo under a metric ton. And in case that's lost on you, that's incredible. For a full-size two-door, two-seater, all-wheel drive super sports or supercar to weigh 999 kilos, that is borderline insane. That's why there are so few cars that are less than four figures when it comes to their weight. Now the interesting thing is the power and even the torque are actually not that impressive. It's only about the same as a Gallardo LP570 of the time, because it shares that kind of engine. Around a 5.2 litre V10, naturally aspirated of course, 570 horses, not a massive amount of torque either, but that's the reason why I love it, and that is the reason why I think it is the most impressive Lambo, because with just an exercise in saving weight, they immediately showed the raw potential of what not only their cars can do, but what their engines can do as well. To have a car with no power advantage over a regular Gallardo and only an exercise in weight loss, to make that car as fast from 0 to 60 as a Bugatti Veyron, the fastest car in the world, I believe still at that time. Possibly it had been beaten by the Ultimate Aero, but the Veyron still tends to get most of the credit. To make a car that could do that with pretty much half the power is remarkable, and it really goes to show the benefits that shaving weight out of a vehicle can make. 2.5 seconds 0 to 60, and of course it's not a top speed derived vehicle, so 199 miles an hour flat out is fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine, and of course that's not the point of the car. Now, to reference the second reason why I believe this is the most impressive modern Lamborghini is because look at all of the cars that came before this in terms of design and performance, and now consider all of the Lamborghinis to come after it. The Aventador, even the Huracan of course, which is its direct descendant, the Centenario, the Veneno, various others too. They all have elements of Sesto Elemento in there. It really did inspire everything else that came after it from Lamborghini, even up until today. The more recent Aventador SVJs, etc., they still have design cues that started with this car. So not only is it an incredible muscle flex for what Lamborghini is capable of on a pure performance point of view, but it also inspired their current models. Years later, they are still drawing inspiration from this benchmark, a self-imposed benchmark, and that is just a couple of the reasons why I think it's so good. Now, I'm happy to say that those things translate beautifully into this game, because I would go so far as to say that out of the vehicles that I've driven so far, if you're like me and you're maybe newer to a game but you don't really want to start with a technically beginner's car, something like a hot hatch or a low-level open-wheel Formula Ford type thing, you want to get your teeth into something more meaty, but at the same time you need a car that's maybe not going to be too unforgiving, that can get you used to the game. This is perfect for that. It's such a forgiving supercar because, of course, being lightweight with a modest amount of power and all-wheel drive with a decent amount of downforce, Well, of course, that's going to be very forgiving, and it certainly is. Now, the one downside that the Sesto Elemento has, and it really is the only downside as far as I'm concerned, is it actually has quite a lot of understeer at very low speeds. So you really need to watch throttle control when exiting corners, and especially when travelling through longer corners, like a hairpin for instance, because in most supercars or sports cars, when you're around halfway through the turn, you start to roll on the power. You can't really do that as much in the Sesto because the car will start to drastically shift toward the outside of the turn and become very heavy. So this is one of those vehicles where it has fantastic mid-range and very high-speed control. You can really throw the car through corners and it keeps very stable. It's just the low-speed stuff where you need to maybe hold back for about half a second on the throttle, then give it the beans, just to allow the car to be straighter so you can really get the full power out of it and open up that incredible acceleration out of a corner. Even with that under consideration though, it's a fantastic cornering machine. And as I said, I believe it's a perfect car for if you don't want to drive something slow but you are newer to the game. It has the perfect mix of both, and of course being as it is a track B category vehicle, well, it's a fantastic rival to some of the others in the game as well. There is some interesting rivalry within that category. You've got stuff like the Jaguar XJ220, which we reviewed before, and then you've got something more modern like a Zonda Cinque, so there's a lot of variety within that class. I would definitely say that this is better than the Jag, and of course many cars in that class, including the two that I mentioned, the Jaguar and the Zonda, can destroy this car for top speed. But there aren't that many circuits where you're going to use that kind of top speed. That extra, say 20 mile an hour advantage that those vehicles have is not going to matter that much somewhere like Laguna Seca, or here for instance at the former Infineon Raceway. This car is very good for its category. It has fantastic handling. In fact, it has too much grip for its own good, and the weight is so low that it really does feel essentially like a really pretty go-kart, but in all of the best ways. The way in which I would actually succinctly describe the Sesto Elemento in the simplest form is, imagine if you took a Ferrari 288 GTO and combined that with the DNA and the driving manners of a modern interpretation of a Group B rally car. If you put those two things together, Group B Rally and Ferrari GTO, I believe that those two are basically a Sesto Elemento. It really does feel like that. It's got, of course, the hardcore, stunning Italian exotic side, but with the ultra-low weight, really responsive engine, close ratio gearbox, and the brutal acceleration and all-wheel drive grip of a rally car. And that is a pretty formidable combination to have, so much so that the Sesto Elemento is way faster than any other car like this on the market. If you could buy this thing, for 570 horsepower, nothing comes close to this kind of acceleration, launch and cornering ability. Of course it's not road legal, but still, those are the reasons why, both in the game and in real life, I believe the Sesto Elemento is actually pretty easily the most impressive modern Lamborghini. It shows exactly what they're capable of without having the huge power advantages that a supercar would typically need to show off this kind of prowess. But give me your thoughts down below. Are you a fan of the car? Do you dislike it? Tell me either way, and of course, stick around on the channel for more Project Cars content. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.